Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. It has been a few weeks since I have had a video out. We just got back from visiting our family in Colorado, and then Austin and I celebrated our anniversary with a little getaway for a few days. We just drove a couple hours down the road and stayed at the Lake of the Ozarks, which was super fun. We enjoyed ourselves a lot, had a really good time. We have been married for 21 years, and I thought I would do a Q&A, some of the questions I had regarding our marriage. And the first one was, how long have y'all been married? It's been 21 years that we have been married. We got married about 2 weeks after I graduated high school. So I was 18, he was 19. He turned 20 just a few days after we got married. And we dated for almost 3 years before that. So it's been almost 24 years that we have been together. We met in high school. He moved from Wyoming to Colorado and started attending the school where I was going. I actually grew up only about 5 miles away from his grandparents, and he would come every single summer. He would visit his grandparents, he would work. But every summer I left and I went to visit with my dad in Washington State, so I wasn't there all summer. So I had never met him. All of my friends who hung around during the summertime at church or at school activities knew who he was because he went to those things. But I did not know who he was until they actually moved to Colorado. His mom and dad moved out there to help with the family farm. So that's how we met, high school sweethearts. I was a sophomore, I was 15, he was a junior, and we started dating almost as soon as school started, and we have been together ever since. So that's our story. Some of the other questions on here are homeschool. There's also some free food questions. I'm gonna chat a little bit first about our food situation. I haven't had a free food haul. Obviously, we've been out of town, so I haven't been able to get that. But we also, Austin and I, this is day 36 for us of following the carnivore diet. There are a few exceptions to our diet, but they're not many. And if you are not familiar with the carnivore diet, it is basically eating animal products only. So no fruits, no vegetables, no sugar, no carbs. Meat and dairy is the extent of the carnivore diet. We also have been having coffee and our electrolytes, and then an occasional diet Pepsi or like Pepsi Zero, but I think that those things we are going to cut out. Also the sodas, and then like some Truvia sweetener. So eggs also is something you can eat. Anyway, we've been doing that, and it has been really going really well. So much easier to do it than I thought it was going to be. I thought for sure I would just have awful sugar cravings and I would just have a fit, and I almost had a fit last night. It was because I was overly hungry. I waited too long to eat anything, and we were leaving the house to go to a basketball game, and I was frustrated. I couldn't find anything to eat. So I ate some Little Smokies, which gave me enough energy, filled my tummy enough that I was not hangry anymore. But besides that, we've done really well with this. I would like to do a separate video, so if you're interested in that, please let me know down in the comments. Leave any comments you have or questions about that. I want to get Austin on here with me to talk more about that and the things that we have seen change in us, how it's benefited us, how we've been doing, and all of that. So if you're interested, please let me know down below, and if you have more comments or questions, put them down in the comment section. So I will get back to these questions. The free food hauls, I do plan to continue to go to the free food hauls. We just haven't been. Alright, so my question is, I always wonder, the free food hauls from Costco, if something is opened already, was it opened by you or the person who returned it? The things that are opened already that we get from the free food place are opened by somebody else. We do not normally open them. Sometimes if there's something that we had wanted to try and didn't know what it was going to taste like and didn't know, should we take this whole package or should we just open one and see how it tastes, we would open one and try it. But most of the stuff has been opened by someone else and they brought it back, or the package has gotten smashed and tore open, or whatever, but it's usually not opened by us. And then she also asked, how did you and your hubby meet? Which I answered that one already. Was having a large family in both your plans or just one? Neither of us, actually. That was not either of our plans. When we got married, my husband wanted to have 2 kids and I wanted to have 4 kids. And we started trying to have kids about 2 years after we were married, and it took a little while before I got pregnant with our first daughter. And after we had her, we were both pretty happy with her for a little while. And I started to want another baby, and it took my husband a lot longer than me to want that. So that's why there are 3.5 years between our oldest 2 kids. It took me a long time to convince him to have another baby. So when I was pregnant with our second child, which is our first son, I was miserable. And it wasn't a particularly difficult pregnancy. Actually, it wasn't difficult really at all, besides a little bit of morning sickness in the first trimester. I just hated being pregnant for some reason. I don't know why. I still don't know why. I just hated it. And I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. This is our last baby. We're not having any more. And after he was born, he was so tiny and cute that I just thought, how could I not have another one? So it's like, well, he is so tiny and cute and sweet. We just want to have one more. So I thought, well, we'll have one more. So it took a few years after that, you know, 1.5 years, I got pregnant. And Crispin and Coulter are like 2.5 years apart from one another. And when I was pregnant with Crispin, Austin and I went through a stage of growth in our relationship with the Lord. And in that whole process, my husband was very convicted on his view of children being a burden rather than a blessing. And that turned into us deciding that we were going to trust the Lord with however many children he wanted to give us, and we would not do anything to prevent them, and just see what the Lord did with that. And so after Crispin was born, I remember being in the hospital and the nurse asking me about birth control and telling her I didn't want any birth control, and she was very, very adamant that I needed to be on birth control. And in the end, I just said, I don't want it, don't plan on using it, no thank you. And she wasn't very happy about that. But after Crispin was born, we started having kids. We had 6 kids in 7 years. So they all came very quickly after that. And it wasn't until I was pregnant with our 7th child that my body was just worn down. I just was to the point of I barely could walk. I was miserable most of the time I was pregnant. It was just really hard. And we were exhausted. We had so many small children, and we wanted to raise them well. We wanted to love them well. We wanted to be able to have time to disciple them, to have relationships with each of them. And as the more kids we had, the less and less time we were having to be able to do that. And we could see the older ones were falling out of our time schedule. You know, we're so busy with all of these little ones that the older ones were missing out. And so at that time, when we were when I was pregnant with our 7th baby, we had discussed not having any more babies after that, and I just wasn't sure. We had Carrington. We were happy and wonderful. It was great. And then about the time that we thought maybe we wouldn't have any more babies, I got pregnant with Clayton. And Clayton's pregnancy was difficult because it was my 8th baby, but his birth and delivery was even more difficult. It was not what we expected whatsoever. And he was born face first. And I had thought, you know, Carrington, my 7th baby, came. I had 3.5 hours of labor with her and no problems at all. There was meconium in my water when my water broke, but besides that, there was no issues, and she never got an infection. I never had an infection, nothing. With Clayton, it was 17 hours of labor and he was still not born. And at that point, I just said, I don't really care what happens anymore. Get this baby out of me. I don't care if I have to be cut open. I don't care. I just want to be done. And about that time is normally when you think you can't do it anymore. That's whenever you're about to have a baby. So he was born very shortly after that, and face first, which is why he was had such a problem getting down birth canal. In the end, everything worked out fine. He was not unhealthy. There was no problems with me. We both were fine after that. But that situation, that event of such a traumatic birth and delivery, labor and delivery, that made up our minds that we needed to be done having babies. My husband knew he needed me to be here, and if something were to happen to me, it would be extremely difficult for him. So at that point we decided no more babies, and got that taken care of about 2 months after Clayton was born. And so now we have no plans to have more children, but it was not always in our plan to have a big family. That is why when we do any premarital counseling with people now, I just advise them to say what your desire is, but don't hold things so tightly, because the Lord can change people's hearts. And that is what happened with my husband and I. Neither of us planned to have 8 children ever. And now we have 8 children. He just wanted 2 and I wanted 4. But God has been very kind to us, and we have 8 beautiful blessings that I can't imagine not having them. So I'm very thankful for them. Let's see. Next question. This is a homeschooling question. This is the last question, so this will probably be done after this. If you have more questions that you want answered or that you think of while you're watching, leave them down in the comment section. Maybe I'll do another Q&A in the future. This question: how and when do you determine if your kids are more of a college-bound, trade school, or work after school type of child? I have only one child who has graduated, and she knew she wanted to be married from the time she was 8 years old. That's all she wanted to do. And we discussed all sorts of things. She always had some different ideas about what she might want to do after she graduated. She had planned at one point to go to Hong Kong for 6 months. She knew she never really wanted to go to college. There was no career that she was after. She wanted to be a wife and a mother. And so we just had her do whatever she was interested in for school, really. The basic, normal general education things and whatever extra she wanted. But for her it was easy. She knew that's what she wanted to do. My next son coming up, he will be a sophomore this coming year. His plan right now, as he's gotten older, he has a desire to be in the Navy. And we will see what the Lord does with that, if that continues to be his desire and something he wants to do. When he graduates, he can go enroll in the Navy and take the testing that he needs to have the position that he wants in the Navy. But that's something just in the last few years that he has decided on. Before that, he thought he wanted to be a farmer. He just liked being out on the farm working with the animals, but right now he does not have any desire to be a farmer. He wants to be in the Navy. So for him, once we get to that point, he knows what he needs to do to pass the tests that he needs to pass for the position he wants to have. And so he has been studying for that and practicing. He's got a practice book and he practices the tests. He's been working hard on his math and just preparing himself for that. My next son, he is 13. He just turned 13. I don't think he has any idea what he wants to do, which is fine. He still has a few years to decide. I know a lot of people think they get in high school, they got to study these things, they got to know exactly what they want. And I think that is a common problem of the public school. Too often they get up there and they force them into thinking, oh, you've got to have this career and you've got to go to college and you have to pick one so that you can enroll in college and know what you're going to do. And then they get in college and they go through these courses and spend all this money and time and get to the end and like, I don't want to do this. This is not even what I want to do with my life. And so I don't want that to be my kids' case. That was my case in high school. I was just, for sure, I had a scholarship. I would go into college as a sophomore whenever I graduated high school. It was all paid for. So I was forced to pick something I wanted to study. And I picked nursing, which I could be a nurse. That probably wouldn't bother me, but that's really not what I wanted to do. And after getting married, being married for a few months, starting school, realizing this is not what I want to be spending my time doing. I just want to be a wife and a mother. I quit school and I do not regret it. There is not a single day that I wish I would have finished since then. So anyway, Crispin doesn't know what he wants to do. As he gets older, you know, the last few years, kids can learn what they want to learn whenever they need it. So if he decides in 2 years, you know, he'll be in 8th grade next year. If he decides in 2 years he wants to do this career and he needs these classes, he will have time to do that, and he can take them if he needs to. If he wants to go to a trade school, he can. If he wants to just learn things and be an entrepreneur, he's welcome to do that. I don't worry about it. They will know how to work hard, which our kids do. My oldest son is a very hard worker and he wants to work. He does not want to be lazy laying around. And so I don't worry that he will ever not be able to find work to provide for himself. Even if it may not be exactly what he wants to do, he is a hard worker and he's willing to work. And so I think that's a more important characteristic to teach your children, that to teach them how to be good workers. And then that way, when they do go out into the world, while they're trying to figure out what they want to do or how they want to spend their time, they will be able to provide for themselves because they'll be hard workers, hard, honest workers, which is a difficult thing to find. My oldest son is 15, and where we live, you can work when you're 14 and 15 years old, but the places that will hire you are very few. There's like Chick-fil-A, Culver's, and that's all that I know of right now. So it's difficult for him to find a job. Most other places don't hire until they're 16 years old or even 18 years old. And that's been frustrating for him because he wants to work. And I talked to one of the people down at the auto parts store when I was there the other day and just asked what age they hire, and he said 18. And I said, oh, my son really wants a job, but he's having such a hard time finding one because he's not old enough. And he said it's sad because all of these younger kids want to work and they're not able to because of the law, but the men who are able to work don't want to. They won't show up for work, they don't work hard, they don't get anything done, they are unreliable. So I think it's important to just teach our children to work hard at whatever it is they're doing, to be diligent in their work, to be honest in their work, and then to trust. We've been teaching our son to trust that the Lord will provide a job for him whenever it's time for him to have a job. And in the meantime, his job is to be looking for a job and taking any little jobs he can find. You know, our neighbors call sometimes to have him come over and weed whack and that kind of stuff. So anyway, I don't necessarily determine anything until they have set in their mind what they want to do. Right now, Coulter's pretty set. He wants to be in the Navy, and so I'm trying to help him do what he needs to do to be able to do that. And the younger kids, I'm not forcing them to pick anything. They're still kids and they still have years left, so I don't stress out about that too much. So I guess that is it for today. Like I said, if you want to hear more about our carnivore journey, the benefits that we have experienced from that, make sure you let me know in the comments below or give me a thumbs up. And then if you have any more questions about our family, about myself, about homeschool, about marriage, about whatever, leave those down in the comments and I would love to do another Q&A. But that's all for today. Thanks for hanging out and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.